Hello, 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 my amazing friends. It is time here Monday evening for another amazing episode of Pink Pixels. I love the energy we bring every single week, and I'm so glad to have you all here as we get to just convene after a long, busy day, because we know Mondays are wild. They throw everything our way as we look towards the rest of our schedule, and for us to have this chance to just connect, to hear each other's stories, to ground us. It's such an amazing experience. And every week we have an amazing guest who comes in and shares their insights, their experiences, their perspectives. And it's such a wonderful experience. I love this. I always take away one or two things that just change how I want to tackle the week. And my week is always better for it. And so I love that you all are here joining us as we dive in. And as always, we do have an amazing guest. I cannot wait for you all to meet Vamp X13, also known as Amanda. All right, so let's go ahead and skip right to it. I don't want to talk anymore because she is an absolute gem of a human being. We've been talking so much pre-stream as well as we've been prepped, and I don't want to hide her anymore. Let's share her with the world. So if you would all be so kind, let us welcome our wonderful guest, Vamp X13. Say hello to us, please.
Hello. Hi, everybody. Hello, I'm Amanda, or Vamp. I am a content creator, a YouTuber. I stream. I'm an actor. And yeah, I basically talk about video games and comics on the internet. And I also love board games. You may notice in my background, I have some board games. There's way more board games. I have also this stack of comics that's right over here. So I do practice what I preach. And yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here with you.
I'm thrilled to have you here. I like that you kind of undermined like I have some board games. Like you have a tower. You can play Jenga with the amount of board games you have.
It's just the hilarious part of like sometimes people will come into my space and they'll be like, "Oh, there's like a shelf of board games over there. You have a lot of board games because there's another shelf behind me that's full."
Yes.
And I'm like, "Oh, that's like some of them. Like I have my bedroom is actually like stuffed with board games, so it's a problem. Yeah, it's a problem.
Is it a
It's a
problem
good problem.
though? Yeah. Come on.
I mean, it's really just living in a small space is what makes it a problem. If
Oh,
I had a bigger space, no, would not be a problem at all. I'd be like, I'm gonna get some more tomorrow.
yes. Yes. That's the biggest problem with anything. Like, I want to keep collecting. I want to have more knickknacks. I want all the things that I love in my home. The problem is my home is not big enough, or it doesn't have the shelving or the space to, let me display it so I can interact with it.
Exactly. It's like I feel like we all need just a room that's like a display room.
Yes.
For like all of the Funkos and figures and the Legos and then like all the statues. Like
yes.
I always see a new statue that I want and then I'm like, where will I put this? Like I don't have space for this.
That's the hardest part. You're like, because you'll walk around con floors and you're like, I want that.
Yeah.
I want that.
Want that.
Yes.
Yeah.
But where? And then you come back home and you're like, I don't have any more space on my walls.
Oh, it's the worst. I go to cons and buy so much stuff. And like when I go to a convention, I like pack half a suitcase, Because I'm like, the other half is like for the merch if I get some stuff. And I'm always like, but I'm not gonna fill it because I have too much stuff. So we're not filling it. I always jam it. And I'm always like overweight when I go to check my bag. They're always like, oh yeah, you're overweight. Like,
yeah. There's only 50 pounds. You're like, I'm 55 pounds. Dang it, now I'm over. What 5 pounds can I carry on the plane?
I think last time they were so nice. They're always so nice. They usually don't charge me, and I feel very like blessed that there's probably like something on there that's like, this girl is like hella a nerd. Like she's always got. Maybe just be nice to her. Like we pity this poor nerd.
Yes,
she's always got too much stuff. But I think last time it was like over 60. And they were just like, oh, yeah, that's overweight. I was like, oh.
Oh, I like Jaws drop.
I thought I made it.
Stuff things in your pillowcase. So when you bring your pillow on the airplane.
Yeah.
It's an extra bag that they don't check.
I've also bought bags just to carry the bag. Like I bought like a backpack at a con just so I could stuff it with more merch.
Yes. Yeah. You have to be creative. Now, you do have a lot of nerd items. What has been your favorite like display way of showcasing them? Like, have you figured out one thing you're like, I love
Ooh.
that I get to showcase it. I wish other nerds knew about this, like this little hack to be able to like, here's how you show off your comics, or here's how you easily access your board games. Is there a
Oh
hack?
man. I wish there was a hack. I mean, I think one of my favorite
I thought
I
you'd have
wish
all
I
the
could share a
answers.
hack. Yeah, I feel like because my space is so small, I like normally just stack things. Like you can kind of see like behind me, like just everything is stacked in my space. Like this is all stacked, and then behind that there's more stacks.
Okay.
But my favorite thing is probably when I got a Calyx for my board games.
Oh yes.
So like from IKEA, like they're the I mean, do you know what I'm not going to mansplain Calyxes to you.
It's shelving, right?
People know. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're like the square shelves.
Yes.
Like they're little boxes. So I got one of those for my bedroom, and I naively thought this will be great for board games and clothes.
Oh.
I'll have so much space for my clothes.
Mm-hmm.
It's mostly board games now. So my
'Cause you have
clothes
so
are like
much.
hanging because I don't have enough space for my clothes in it. The board games have taken over most of the Calyx, but Calyxes are great because board games, they're just like made. Like I feel like they designed the Calyx at IKEA because they had a lot of people that I guess designed furniture for them that love board games. I don't know for sure, but it's made for gamers.
It seems like it. This is reasonable.
Yeah. That, and I guess those clear cases, which I don't own any of because I unfortunately don't have space for them. But my dream is to have clear cases that I can put all my Legos in.
Ooh.
So they can all be displayed. Yeah.
Yes.
Or like, stuff all the Funkos in there, but then have them out from every angle and like have it in the center of the room. So people walk around, they can see like every single like Funko that's in there.
There you go. Or like a rotating case that like spins,
Yeah.
There we go.
Oh, and I guess like another dream thing, I used to hang my guitars on the wall, which I haven't done that in this space. But yeah, my previous place, I had them hanging, which was really cool. And I also have some swords, and I'd love to like hang up swords because I just feel like that's cool. And then also convenient if there's a zombie attack. You can just grab that off the wall. You're good to go.
Yeah, it's easy and practical for the apocalypse.
Yeah.
This is very smart choice. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. As long as you don't hang them above the bed. I don't know. I'm really not great at hanging things properly. I kind of
hanging things above the bed is like I don't do that. Yeah, it's scary, right? Like what if it falls on you in your sleep? I had an ex-partner that was so good at like mounting stuff, and I still was like he was like, what if we put something above the bed? And I was like, no, we're never doing that.
No.
He's like, you don't trust my mounting? And I was like, I trust, but
I'm 12. Sorry.
We're asking to be killed.
Yes.
In our sleep. Yeah,
yes.
We're asking for it.
This isn't how you want to go.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. It's just dangerous. And so the hard part then is like, well, there's this wall space. What do I want to put here? How do I create?
Yeah.
But I like that Paula said, here to support the best human. And Michael said, Amanda just needs to start wearing board games and Funko. Then you don't need clothes if you wear your board games and Funko. And that saves a lot more room too.
This is true, Michael. I do need to. Yes. I wish I could just wear them. That would be great. I was also even saying like, I want to get a house at some point if I can ever afford that. Yeah. And I was saying it would be really cool if you could just like build a house like out of your merch that you own, like what if we could just take all our Funkos and then be like, this is my house, but also this is a collectible. Like that would be, that'd be amazing. Yeah. Then I just have to buy a plot of land.
Yes. Instead of, why am my brain's breaking? Like the stuff that goes inside walls, insulation.
Oh, insulation.
That's it. I was like, I don't know why my brain's stopping. Insulation. You just put all your Funko Pops right there in the wall.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's my insulation.
Yes.
And like, you could use the Lego bricks. That could actually be the bricks of the house.
Yes.
And then the furniture is just all board games.
Yes.
So it's playable and you can sit on it and you can use it as a table.
Honestly, I would like to see this house. I would like to see this.
It sounds great. It'd be like one of those tiny houses.
Yes.
Probably wouldn't be that tiny, but it would be like one of those where like everything is like repurposable. Like it's like this. Yeah. This is all this wall art this isn't just a picture. This is all my Pokemon cards, but I've like arranged them in a way to make it look like a picture.
And when you do when you do the Lego walls, you could make Pokemon designs out of the
Ooh, yeah.
Legos.
Out of the Lego. You could be always changing your house if it was made of Legos. Just be so
Yes.
creative.
Yes.
Like those boxes where you can make like 3 things. It'd
Oh.
be like that. Every month I just change the look of my house entirely. Sounds great.
Swap them
Sounds
out.
great. Lego should get on this. They should just they should make Lego bricks that we can use as like housing materials.
Yes. Home Depot and Lowe's has like buy a home, right? From those, so, like, why not
Yeah.
Lego? Let's get
Why
on
not
this.
Lego?
Why not? I don't give me hammer and nails. Give me Lego pieces. And some of those, when you hammer those in, those are stuck together. Like,
It's true.
secure.
I have like a Lego separator for that purpose. And I didn't even know Lego separators existed when I started building Legos, which was actually only a few years ago. Like a friend gifted me a set for my birthday, and I was dealing with like a lot of anxiety at the time. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to open up these Legos and build this. I had never really done Legos. I was a jigsaw puzzle gal through and through. 3D jigsaw puzzles, flat ones. I loved puzzles.
yes.
And I realized Legos are basically just like puzzles, but like if a puzzle had instructions.
Yes. Exactly. Yes, very much so. And it's fun that way. And it's like, oh, you get to create it and it's more 3D, build out, and yes.
But there's so many pieces that when you start and you don't know that Lego, because back when I knew of Legos, I didn't know there was such a thing as a Lego separator. I don't know when it was invented.
Yes.
But that's like the most genius invention because especially as you get older and your hands get larger, trying to like pull like a tiny Lego piece off, you're like,
freaking adult
this
hands.
Is like, yeah, I'm like, this is what hell is like just trying to do this. It's my idea of purgatory right
hell
here.
is not fire. It's trying to pull apart really tight Lego pieces. Really
tight Legos.
That's the nerd hell. Can't take these things apart.
Also, they're so slippery. So you like just trying to pull it, and then you would just, because you're pushing so hard, your fingers come off, and then you've like stabbed yourself with your own hand. And you're like, this hurts. I don't like this. Lego pieces are also weirdly sharp. So, I mean, I love them, but they're really sharp. And I have friends that their kids, they've stepped on many a Lego piece, and they have trauma. Like when I'll bring Legos out, they'll be like, this is what I'm afraid of. This is my fear.
Yes.
Like, what are you doing with those? Don't drop any.
Yeah.
I don't want to step on that.
Well, remember, Lego is dangerous. So
it is. You know. Yeah, it's dangerous. That's why it's also a good house building material. It's sturdy, it's sharp, it's dangerous.
And Lego, I like that you mentioned the separator because Lego is its own world with language. I recently went to a small like museum exhibit about it, and there's different terminology of like all the bricks of a wall that you build are the same color, or if they're different one, or if you use like a little animal figurine versus you brick build it.
It's like its own world. Yes. I know. And also, what's up with like the fact that everyone that I've met that does like Legos, I don't know if anyone does not have this experience, please share. But everyone that I've met that does Legos or is in that community, it's like the nicest community of people. Like it might be one of the best communities. Ooh. That and maybe Pokemon, I would say, are a couple of my top like communities of all time.
Okay.
But Legos might be number one.
Dang.
Like if you go to the Lego store, everyone is weird, like weirdly nice. Like I'm like,
everyone is willing to help. They will support whatever creation you make because it's your imagination. There's not a wrong creation.
I went there one time and I was ready to buy replacement pieces because I'd had my friends' sons were over and they were playing with my Legos and they took them apart and then put them back together. And of course, they lost pieces in that process, which I was like, they lose pieces. It's fine.
Yeah.
I'll just go get more pieces. So I went there and I was like, I know the pieces I need. I need to buy these pieces. Yeah. And they were just like, oh, what pieces do you need? I'm like, oh, we'll just give them to you. Aww. I was like, what? I was like, no, but I'll like pay you for these. Yeah. And they were like, no. Like you need them for your set. Like it's all good. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, they were in the set. Like I lost them.
Yes.
Like it's my fault.
Yeah.
And they were like, no, that's fine.
That's amazing. Like, oh. Yeah. Oh.
I also don't know if that says something about the world that I found that to be such a kind gesture, but it felt very like just really generous of them to just want to make sure that I had a complete set because they felt like that's important for you and your creation. And I was like,
yes.
thanks, guys.
Yes.
So then my goats were complete again.
Your goats.
Because that's what they were from.
But I'm glad you pulled this out, because these are little acts of kindness, and sometimes we don't expect it from a community. Like gaming nerd communities, we know that there are some that are toxic or very opinionated or easy to critique, or, you know, gatekeepers. And so it's really nice to hear one where like, let's help you out. I love this. You know, that's so wholesome.
I mean, maybe that speaks to like how our experience with communities, though, right? Like we've obviously been in so many communities, and I think also just like as women in nerd communities, it's like you get a mix of stuff, right? Like you get the communities like the Lego communities that are, everyone's so nice and everyone's so like warm and just wholesome and excited to support each other, like creating stuff out of these little bricks. And then you get like, you know, like I love League of Legends, but that is a toxic community.
Yes. I mean, that's its
reputation.
But... Yeah. Especially if you're starting out and you aren't a good player, it can be very uncomfortable to play. It's hard to get one to come back and get better.
It's hard to get into it. And it's hard to like get other people into it, because it's like, okay, so like people might be like really mean to you, but just like don't listen to them.
Like,
just mute it. Like, you know, but it's honestly, there's so many communities like that. I think that when I was like growing up, and even now as an adult who's been in many of these communities for years, that I am so amazed when someone's nice, because I'm just like, oh, this is what it's supposed to be like.
Yes. So obviously you, as an adult in this space, you've kind of grown and seen these communities evolve. What was it like when you were first starting out, like trying to enter into not just nerdom for yourself, right, and the things that you love, but you engaged it on a community level? What was those initial days when you're starting to branch out and say, I want to talk to other people about these things I love?
Man, I feel like it was weird in some regards. So I always grew up with like my core group of friends. We were all very nerdy together. So we would play video games together. We would like watch each other play video games. We would write together. We would read books together. We would like hang out at recess and like just lay in the grass and like read books. That was like, so we would like read fantasy novels and just be like hanging out. And it was super cool. But it's also one of those things, if I remember other people judging me and my friends growing up, and people that were outside kind of like, you know, making fun of us for like wanting to read books on recess and stuff like that. So I think I always sort of like let it be out there, but at the same time, it depended on who I was talking to as to what I would share with them, because I was kind of nervous about, I don't know how people are going to react. And so I was a little, I think, afraid of the communities, because I just thought, like, oh, if I let someone know this thing about me, like, what will they think? Will they like it or not? And it was really awesome growing up, I think, to find certain spaces where you were just like free to kind of just geek out when you found those communities.
Yes.
Yeah.
You could just be you. You can make all the weird sounds that you want in reaction to it. You could cosplay as them. You could quote them to endless degree without feeling judged.
Yes. Yeah. Without feeling like someone's going to like be like, oh, that's weird that you know that. I think for me, like one of the first ones that I had, which is also kind of like weird considering the state of it now, but I think one of those was probably like Harry Potter for me. And I remember like going to McKnight, like the book releases and going to see the movies, dressing up, and everyone was just so excited about the energy. So everyone was just so supportive of like I remember I dressed up as Hermione and I like made like a cosplay myself. And I did not think it was probably, I'm sure if I looked back on it now, I'd be like, oh, you sweet summer child. This is so fresh.
You're like, look at those, blossoming into the nerdom.
Made a SKU badge and like cut it out myself and everything.
Dang.
Yeah. But I remember going to the premiere where I wore that, and I just remember how excited everyone else was, and everyone else was dressed up and everyone was like complimenting each other. And I think that's the thing that I'm just, and still now today, like as a cosplayer, even, I think the cosplay community is very much that. It's so fun to cosplay with people and just like get to meet people through costumes and recognizing these characters from different fandoms and seeing people lift each other up, because there's very few times, I would say, in the cosplay community that anyone has ever come up to someone to put them down. Like we all only see each other and get hyped and then interact with each other to say, you know, like, you look amazing, like I really love this, like, oh, like how did you craft this, or where did you get this? So that's wonderful.
Yes.
It's weird though, because people always wonder like how you got into it. And that was a weird thing for me with gaming, is I feel like people have always asked me, and with comics, like, who is the guy in your life that got you into?
That's the who's the guy in your life who taught it to you? Well, I mean, that's hard because a lot of those were first just marketed to male communities, and so
yeah,
so then we had to be brought in because we weren't originally invited.
Yeah, it was like a weird, because it's also really weird because I didn't actually ever have a guy that brought me in. Like I've definitely had like men in my life that have been into other nerd things, and we've like, I found things through, I was into this and they were into something different, and we did like kind of a fandom swap, you know, which is cool. But as a kid, I never had, like, I had my dad, but my dad isn't like super nerdy. He loves Superman. That's his thing. He loves Superman.
Great choice. Okay.
Great. Yeah, great choice. Love it. But no one else in my family was really like super nerdy. Like I was the nerdy person. And so no one got me into it. It's
you.
Yeah, I just always wanted to play video games and hang out in the basement and like go on to, did you ever go on to like message board forums?
Not for games. I think I was too afraid. But I don't know. I'm pretty old, so like I don't
I used to go on like pro boards and like do role playing games, like where you would basically like cooperative fan fiction is what I tell people that today don't remember the pro boards like era. But yeah, so I would like, or you know, I'd be on like playing Neopets when I was a kid.
Neopets was so good.
Playing Tomb Raider. I played like all of the old Tomb Raider. That was so exciting as well, as someone that was like a lady, because it was like, oh my gosh, I got to play a woman. This is so different.
Yes. I mean, she was a total badass, which is always fantastic. And she was one of the few options we had. I mean, Princess Peach was there, but you didn't get to play her until it was after Lara Croft that you got to play Princess Peach.
Yeah, and I definitely played like a bunch of Super Mario. Like that was my first like console, was the original Nintendo Entertainment System, the NES. And I played tons of Super Mario as a kid. But you know, you're playing as Mario, and then maybe you're playing as Luigi, and then you're always saving this princess.
Who somehow always keeps getting captured.
Like, girl, could you just not get captured for a day?
I'm
tired. That's what I kept thinking.
I would love one where it's Peach escaping. Like maybe you do, but then you get yourself out. Like,
oh yeah, you get yourself out. That would be sick.
Yes.
Actually, I think there was a mod that a dad did a while ago for his daughter. Yeah, where he made it so that you're saving Mario. And I was like, oh, I wish we had that. That would have been cool.
I think we might, like with the latest Mario movie, Princess Peach was really cool. She was empowered. She had her own ideas. She was a really great inspiration. I'm like, I want more of her, and I want that game.
Right? But I mean, I think she is also, has her game come out yet? I know she's getting a game.
She had one, and her powers were based upon and amped by her emotions. You remember that?
I remember that one. And everyone went,
that's how you want to portray her? Those are like, okay.
So love that you've given us a game with a female protagonist. We love Princess Peach, but why her emotions?
Yes. And it's hard because like, at the same time, we know our emotions are important, and a lot of stories we invalidate them. So it's nice that they are, but the only like, this is her first like solo one, and you tie it just to her emotions. Like, let's side eye a little bit.
It's a little like, maybe like if you guys want to do some emotions, like maybe like anyone else for the emotion game, maybe just because you know this is the first Peach led like game, female character, and now we're kind of feeling like, are you just saying that women are emotional? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah. And it's hard because we don't have a lot of other representation options yet, especially when that one first came
No.
out. So it was like, let's change
Even
that.
like, I really wanted to play. So I still haven't played Red Dead, which I really want to play it because I hear it's amazing. Yeah. Okay.
I haven't. I've heard that you have to kill animals in it, and so I was like, I don't know if I can do that right now.
Yeah, I'm the type of person that's always trying to avoid that, like as much as possible. Like even. So I started playing Pal World, and even then I keep like, because there's a small window where you can pal them.
Yes.
Sounds so weird to say it like that. You can pal them.
That's going to become I can't wait till Webster's Dictionary adds that. It's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm going to pal you. Yeah. But it means like I'm going to like capture you in a ball. But yeah, there's that small window where you're like, oh man, this pal is going to be low on health, so I only have this little window. I'm so bad at timing it. And then their corpses just stay there, like, because they're not dead, they're just asleep, but they never get up again. And I'm like, I do not feel comfortable about this. I have to like shamefully, people that are in the chat right now probably that have seen me play know that I shamefully will push them into water so that I don't have to see them.
We just hide the bodies. Yeah, that's smart. Very, good choice.
It hurts me. I also don't like, or even if there's like a hunting objective in something where you don't have to do it, but you can. And I'm a completionist.
Yes.
So I feel compelled, but I'm like, oh, but then I have to like take this life. Like, do I really want to take the life or something where you need resources?
Yeah. When it's just out there.
Sometimes kill things.
You know, it's not like an enemy. It's not attacking you. So it's not like, this feels unprompted.
Like, I feel like maybe we just leave that.
Yeah.
Like, why are you asking me to do that game?
I love that you hide it though by pushing it into water. Like, let's pretend this never happened. No one saw anything. Don't you clip this as I bury the body.
And you know, everyone's always clipping it. They're always like, we'd like to remind you. There was one time I played the Batman Telltale game.
Yes.
And I still get called out about it, where I did not threaten to break anyone's arm. I just want this to be on record. As Batman, I never threatened to break someone's arm. I chose the other option, but everyone's always like, remember that time you threatened to break that guy's arm? And I'm like, I didn't. I wouldn't do that.
But did you?
Right, but did you? We remember you did that. As Batman, you'd break everyone's arms. I'm like, no.
Yes.
I'm not that Batman. I'm gonna protect even the criminals' arms, you know?
Well,
keep them safe.
That's kind of the power of a community, right? Like in this case, it's lying, but there's the actual, like, there's the stories in the games, but communities get to tell their own stories. Like, they bring those to life. Like, that's where we see so many fanfics. That's where we see cosplayers. We see OC characters even. Right? How much when you activate a community that they now feel empowered to tell their own stories in that space. Whether it is maybe you did threaten to break someone's arm, or, you know, we do a spinoff, or we highly, whatever, like there's a really great power that comes from a community that feels involved.
Yeah, and that feels safe to play and definitely be free to like share, because obviously as much as I would never threaten to break someone's arm. Never. Ever. I do love, don't tell everyone I said this. Yeah. I know you're watching, but I do love that fun, that play, that sense that, you know, you can watch the stream and a moment for you evolves into a story that we come back to, because it's this sense of like, remember that moment and when we were all there and you got to have your own experience of how you saw me in that moment. I think that's so beautiful. I think it's really cool when we can have spaces where people just feel free to 100% like be themselves and to just kind of like speak what's on their mind and not feel that like they're going to be judged for anything. It's really hard, I think, as well, in like the world we're living in now, where everything is very like split down the middle. Like there's this side and there's this side, you know?
Yes. It's if there's a nice sometimes slight separation that we like to have that makes us feel like we're part of a group because it's not part
Yeah.
of another group. But being
Yes.
able to permeate that or to see more nuance to say, like, yeah, even though they don't like this, they're not otherized. Like, we're not like, they're not human
Yeah.
anymore because they don't like us.
Yeah.
There's the
Yeah,
change.
exactly. Because at the end of the day, it's like we all inhabit this earth. We all
Yes.
have, our blood is all the same color. We
Mhm.
all live here on this rock together. So
Mhm.
we have to, in a way, coexist. We're not always going to agree on stuff
Yeah.
ideologically, politically. And obviously, there's certain exceptions to sometimes where you have to, I think, police a community and keep a space just safe for everybody.
Right.
But other than that, it's like, I never want to have a space where people feel like, if they disagree with me on like a superhero movie, I'm going to be like, well, you don't agree with me. So like, you don't belong in the space. Like,
Out.
it's like,
Out.
no, we don't have to like the same things.
Yes.
We don't have to have the same opinions. In fact, I want people more when they don't have the same opinion as me.
Yes.
Because I want to see the world as everyone sees it a little bit. I think it's good to get perspective.
Well, you learn to appreciate others better, or it helps you understand your own character better. Like debating it in good fun, not just debating it for debating's sake, but debating it can be really fun as you now have to think about like better arguments as to why you like a certain something.
Exactly. That's like actually online, the difference between, because I love having like debates and discussions. But there is a line that I draw, and you just nailed it. That is exactly the line that I draw, which is when I start having a discussion with someone and maybe we don't agree. And I say, well, here's why I see it this way. And let me just like lay out for you like what my perspective is. And then they say, and then I say, so you disagree. So like, why is that? Like, where is that coming from? And like, what do you see when you look at this? And people just go, I just don't like it. And I go, well, I guess that's the end of this conversation because you don't want to actually explore why you don't like it.
Yeah.
Why you like other things versus you don't like this. Like, what is it about it that really triggers you or that you just find unrelatable?
Yes. It's not conducive to an argument. Like if you can't bring a conversation, don't bring your snarky comments, right? Like that's
Yes. It's like one of those things, like my mom, when I was raised, I was always taught, if you don't have anything nice to say, you don't say anything.
Yeah.
And I'm a firm believer of that. But I think actually what it should be is if you don't have like anything to actually bring that has any depth, just don't say anything. Like if you don't understand why you like or don't like something, maybe figure that out first.
Yeah. Listen, ask questions, which is a really great place to begin.
Yes. Yeah, ask questions. That's my favorite thing to do in a discussion with someone is just ask them questions to sort of see, not because I want to pull apart their argument or anything. I just want to understand it. And so me asking questions allows me to understand them. But it's interesting when people can't answer that. And a lot of the times I'm like, oh, okay, like this is a person that I can't engage with because we're not going to have a conversation. We're just going to yes and no in a little like circle forever.
Yeah. Or then we realize the conversation needs to pivot as they're trying to understand their own argument. Like now this is an exploration as they figure. So like, okay, we were going to debate this. Now let's figure out more about what this is instead. And that can be very helpful. But I want to call out one thing that I really love that you mentioned, because I know I'm guilty of this sometimes too, especially with things that I'm very intense or passionate about, is that we listen to argue instead of listen to understand. And I love that you mentioned like you listen to understand and how important that is in wanting to be authentic and genuine in your interest of connecting with people.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, 100%. I mean, but that's what it is, right? Like, and some people do listen to argue. And that's the other thing that I think you have to watch out for when you engage with people especially in online spaces, but also just in life.
Yeah.
Is when people just like take the one thing you said just so they can like twist it. And I'm like, okay, but like, you just want to win the argument?
Yes.
Like, because I don't really think anyone wins an argument anyways. Like,
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah, what does it
to
even
win
look
an
like?
argument?
Like I have to now bow and say, "You were right. I apologize," which sometimes we do need to
I
say that.
renounce my opinion.
Yes.
Yeah, like, which I mean, and sometimes I will say that.
Yeah.
Sometimes people make a compelling argument, and I'm like, oh, you
Mhm.
know what? Maybe I should look at this a different way. You've made some good points. But
Yes.
I would also say that the person that says that kind of also wins the argument because now their mind has been opened.
Yes,
in a
that's
new way.
that should be the real gem of like learning new
Right?
revelations about what we like or what we understand in the world around us. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So it's
Mhm.
like really, I think that person almost wins more when they can kind of be like, oh
Yeah.
my goodness,
Yeah.
I just learned something new. Like,
Yes. Yeah.
I think that person has actually won the argument. So
Right?
it's bizarre. It's
Mhm.
strange.
Well, and it's one of those things like where if you're getting into a conversation and you want to persuade somebody, you have to be equally open to be persuaded as well. If you want this to
Yes.
be fair, you can't be like, I'm automatically right. We're going to assume I'm automatically right. And I have to convince you that you're wrong. Like, that's a non starter in a conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's like we're already not going anywhere
Yeah.
because you've already made up your mind about. That's the thing. Like when you talk to people and someone's
Mhm.
already made up their mind about something, that's also another thing for me that I'm like,
Mhm.
all right, well, I don't know if we should have this conversation. You've already made up your mind. So
Yeah.
if you've already made up your mind, then
Yeah.
what are we even talking? Why are we even here?
Yeah, like, or I hate this character. They're just pointless and you can't convince me otherwise. I'm like, well, then let's not
All
worry
right.
about this conversation.
I'm like, all right, well, you can think they're pointless. That's
Mhm.
your prerogative and good luck to you
Yes,
in your life.
exactly. Good luck. Good luck to you. I like what Family
Good luck.
IT Dude said in chat. Yes. Lore backstory discussions within a community can be really interesting, especially because there's somebody always
Ooh.
brings up a point that you never consider. I'm like, oh, I forgot that in that episode that happened. And you're like, I love it when people
I
do
know.
that. Yes.
I love when people do that too. I love when it's like we can just kind of like have this little like lore share. Like someone will be like,
Yes.
well, have you ever thought about this thing though?
Mhm.
And then you're like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot
Yeah.
that like in episode 6, in the first 5 minutes, that was hinted at.
Yes.
So when I was talking about how this doesn't make sense, I'm like, now I understand. But then I'm like, but now we also have to deal with the fact that I remember that,
Yes.
but there's an unresolved, like, what was this about that was mentioned? Is this about that or does it mean something else?
Yep.
And then everyone's just like building on. I mean, that's the cool thing about lore as well, right? Like a lot of it is not necessarily subjective, but there's so many things, especially in any property where you have a very established long history like canon. Like because I deal a lot with comics, there's so much stuff that changes that can be interpreted.
Different storylines or artists or writers behind it.
Yeah. And so you're like, well, like this creative's perspective on this character was totally different than this person. So now we have to deal with the fact that like, yes, this character is evil, but also what about this part of them that was good for like 5 years? And how do we reconcile these two things? And like, they're both. And it's the whole idea of complex lore and the fact that characters like us are complex. Like,
yes,
that's so fun.
Yes. And when we have those like I love hearing you talk about it because I can see it. Like you're like, I love your facial expressions. You're like, yes, and I see it, and I see you doing this detective mode of piecing all of it together, which is exciting.
Yeah.
And that's when those discussions become fun, when they're civil, accepting that they build to the passion and understanding of the collective group rather than the person who goes, well, actually,
Yeah. Well, actually, yeah, I know. I mean, it's hard because I also do find sometimes I'll be about to say something and I'm like, am I about to actually someone?
And it's
and
often the attitude. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's what I try to think. Like, I'm like, I want to share this with them, but I don't want to actually. So then I have to try to think of like, how do I say what I want to say? But make it like more of an inviting gesture as opposed to a like straight up correction. Except for the occasions where someone comes in and tries to correct something I've said that is based on a fact. And then I'm like, I'm going to have to actually you. I don't want to, but you're trying to actually me. So now we got to do this. And I got to be like issue number 26, volume 3, page 5.
Yeah.
Just look at that. And then you'll see what I'm talking about.
That's true. Yeah. As Scrib even goes, to be fair, it is hard not to actually when the other is just wrong. Yes.
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 Yeah. But I mean, we can still do it with grace, I think is important, and with respect for the individual in the fact
Yeah.
that they feel like, because I think a lot of the times when people do that, it comes from this place of feeling like, why do we gatekeep?
Mm.
Why do we gatekeep?
Ooh, that's a good
You know?
question. Yes. Why do we feel possessive that it needs to belong to just us?
To
Is it a sense of
us. Yeah.
power, like knowledge through gives us power over others to say, I own
I
this
think
or I
it's
know
like
more?
being outside of something, like all of us always feeling like we're outsiders, right?
Yeah.
Because it's interesting in nerd communities and geeky communities and these sort of worlds.
Mm-hmm.
Most people feel like they kind of came into something because they felt like they were outside,
Yeah.
and this was the thing that made us feel like, oh, like I belong.
Mm-hmm.
But the weird thing about being a human being psychologically is I think we all always feel outside.
Yeah.
So
Oh, that hits hard today. Dang.
yeah, so I think when people gatekeep, in a way, it's them feeling defensive because even within maybe a community,
Mm-hmm.
they feel outside, or in their life somewhere they felt that way. So they feel like they need to kind of push others out
Mm.
to protect the space for themselves without understanding that, like, look, we all feel like we're outside. So you actually pushing me out, I'm living the same journey as you. This is the same experience.
Yeah.
So instead of pushing each other out, we should be like, everyone get in here.
Yeah. There's like a
Because we all
perceived
feel
limited
separate.
number of seats, right? Like if I welcome you
Yeah.
in, then it's no longer room for me.
It's no longer my exclusive club where I get to belong, because if
Yeah.
everyone belongs, then what was the point of like any of us feeling separate or something like that? It is also, I
Yes.
think, a power trip.
Yeah.
But the power trip, I think, why do we want power? Because we feel like we don't have control.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
And I think you're right to kind of go back to that identity of like where we belong, creating that sense of who we are, because that is part of it, like where we finally say like, this is me, this is my space. We want to also be able to control, if we claim, let's say I'm going to do Star Wars, like Star Wars is me, I want to claim it, then I also want to be cautious of who I let in there. I'm going to control that to say like, only the people I let into my life are going to be allowed to have Star Wars. And if I own Star Wars, that means I hold that for everyone. No one else can like Star Wars except for the people I want to like Star Wars, because Star Wars is me.
I see a character differently, right? So like, let's say, you're like a big fan of Luke Skywalker and you see Luke Skywalker this way. For you, Luke Skywalker is this character. He's always the hero. He's always the good guy. And I say, well, what about like the elements of Luke where maybe he's like not the good guy? To you, it's like I've now threatened who you are as a person, because your identity is Luke Skywalker. Like that is part of who you are now saying.
Yes.
And I mean, I was thinking about this the other day. Wow, this is getting so,
I love it.
Like, metaphysical.
Yes.
But
give it to us.
I was thinking about how obviously I have many nerdy things in my life. And I was thinking about how so much of even my wardrobe, like everything in my life, is like branded in some way, is part of a fandom in some way. And I thought, like, what does that mean about who I am? Like, who am I without my fandoms, kind of?
Oh.
And like, where is the line between me and the fandoms? How much of it has become my identity? And what would I be if I took that away? Like, I literally was talking to my partner on the phone and I was like, do you think like I have an identity like outside of all of this? And of course he's great, so he was like, I mean, yeah, obviously.
Smart guy. Okay, got it.
Yeah. He was like, obviously. He's like, what, you think like you're just like fandoms? He's like, no, there's so much more to you than that. That's not intrinsically who you are. That's just things that you like. And there's reasons that you like it because it speaks to who you are, but it's not like just who you are. And I think that's when it gets dangerous for us as people that are part of communities, right? When we kind of lose our sense of self and we become so like in the community that we can no longer separate. Like, I am Star Wars, as opposed to like, I am a person who likes Star Wars.
Yes. How much it is an extension, but not us. It is a way in which we get to channel. And that's why it resonates with us, because we see parts of the story that go, that's me, or those are values that I have, or those are feelings that I go through, but that is not you per se. It's that
Yes,
connection. Yes. But it's hard.
exactly.
And of course, especially when we get immersive in the fandom, yeah, we buy clothes at where we go and we do reenactments of our favorite stories. We go back and do the movies and we'll go early and rewatch them. And it doesn't matter if it came out 20 years ago or not. We're still buying movie theater tickets to go see it again. Right. So it becomes so much of what we do, but it shouldn't be us.
Yeah.
And that's hard.
And it's hard. And it's hard also because, I think some people just don't really know who they are without the fandom.
Yeah.
And that's scary.
Yeah.
Like, I was scared. I was thinking about it the other day and I was scared. And I was like, what if I just like didn't have this stuff? Like, would I be interesting? Like, who am I? Like, without it? Like, I'm looking at myself in the mirror. Like, I was literally looking at myself in the mirror, I don't know, washing my face or something. And this is when I started thinking about this. And then I'm like looking at myself in the mirror and I'm like, yeah, who am I? It was like a Zoolander moment. I was like,
then you do blue steel pose.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this is, I understand why this is also a little more complicated too, because these stories do change us. And they inform us, right? It's not just like we see it and we've heard of it, but there's things that help us realize things about ourselves or things that we want to change about ourselves. Like if suddenly I'm like, I understand that villain. Oh, what's going on with that with me, right? Like it gives me a
am
check.
I that villain?
Yes. Or when a character does something and I go, I want to be like that. And so I start doing things like that. Maybe I start lightsaber training, or I say, I want to be kind like that person, or I want to be funny like that person is. Right. And that's not necessarily,
I want to dress
thing.
like that person.
Yes.
When I saw Barbie, I had this weird journey throughout that movie where I just connected so much with Ken and with Ken's journey.
Yeah.
And one of my friends at work said this to me after we're talking about the movie and I'm talking about my analysis of it. And he was kind of writing it off. Like, he was like, I don't know if I'm going to go see it. And then I was like, well, here's what I took from it. I think it's really about like the journey of self and like finding out who you are. And so I think that can speak to everybody, like even if you don't like Barbie.
Yeah.
It's also just really beautiful. But the other side of it was I was like, yeah, like I personally actually really connected with Ken. So I think a lot of people think this is like a movie about like women connecting with women. And there is that.
Yeah.
But I connected with Ken more than Barbie. So I thought that was weird. And he said, well, maybe it's because like in your life, like you are Ken, because Ken is living in Barbie land, right? So like you're a woman living in a patriarchy. So doesn't that make sense?
Yeah.
And he was like, so really, us as men, we should connect with Barbie. And I was like,
yes.
Holy shit.
Yes.
Yeah. My mind was like,
because Ken is the side piece. And that was like mirroring how so many women are often told in stories as like, your storyline is dependent on what the main character's storyline is like. Yes.
And it was an interesting thing though, because he obviously goes through his villain era.
Yes.
In the film. Yeah. And it was me realizing that there were times that I had acted out and been emotionally manipulative to other people in my life because I felt I have no control. And this is the only way that I can feel like I'm the bigger person.
Yes.
Is to like, because I don't know who I am, because I feel like I don't have an identity. And I was like, yeah, that's so sad.
It gives it gives us that revelation, and it gives us the opportunity to see that from a safe perspective.
That's art, right?
Because that's hard.
That's art.
It's hard for us to look in the mirror and evaluate our own actions, especially when they're all intermingled with our emotions and other because let's be clear, our life is not just like, I can take a snapshot of it and say like, let's evaluate this. It's in context of not even a linear, it's everything, right? But there's all of it.
And it's all intermingled. Yes. So it's like, let's just try to take one aspect of myself. And I'm like, oh, but that aspect of myself is intermingled with everything else. So it's really hard to separate pieces. Yes. Like, unless you have professional help. And even sometimes with that, it's challenging, right?
And that's hard because at times you do have to recognize the context of like how it all exists. But an art piece, right? Like a movie, a TV show, a comic, right? A video game, any of it. Yeah. It gives us a chance to give us that sliver and pull out from that.
Oh, you know what this is making me think of? I played.
Oh, both, technically.
I watched, I played, I was living the experience that is a short hike. Have you played this game?
No. No, I
It's
don't
a
think I've
cute
ever
little
heard of it.
Oh my gosh, you have to check it out.
Okay.
It's on it was on Game Pass. I don't know if it's still on Game Pass, but it was on there. And it is a small indie game that was recommended to me by my friend Kurt. And I actually have a thing on my channel where people can save up channel points and request a game. And on Saturdays, I do game requests. So I like have those, and every Saturday I play whatever's in my queue that people have said, play this game within reason. If it's like $1 million, obviously I can't play that. But as long as it's like affordable, I'm willing to just like play whatever. And as long as it's, you know, TOS appropriate.
Yeah.
So I played A Short Hike, and good Lord, that game made me cry. It made me feel so many things.
Oh, what's the premise of it?
It's you're a little anthropomorphic bird.
Yes.
And it's your summer break.
Okay.
And you go to visit your aunt, who is like a forest ranger, who's also a bird. And you just sort of, you're in this little community, you're there. There's not really good cell phone service. And your aunt suggests you go on this short hike up to the top of a mountain, and you're going to get a beautiful view. And you go and do that. And when you get to the top of the mountain, I'm not going to spoil anything, but there's a big surprise. There's kind of a reason why. Not just, I mean, the view is also probably just going to make you cry. I'm going to be real with you. The view is beautiful, but
hey, we love it.
It's also all right. It's also all pixelated. So it's a very like pixely game. But there's also kind of a reason why you're having, I think, a rough time being like sort of in touch with nature and being disconnected from like, you know, your phone and sort of this like online world and all of that stuff. And that kind of comes out when you get up there. And I knew it was going to be something like, I was kind of prepped to be like, oh, it's like a lot, but it's really good.
Yeah.
But when I got up there, I wasn't expecting for like how hard it hit me, and just reminded me so much of all the love that I have for people in my life, and how it made me want to like call everyone and just be like, hey, I love you. I just want to, I think I actually did after I played the game. I texted people in my real life and was like, hey, I just want to like see what's up and just like remind you that like you're really important to me and like I really care about you, and just wanted to like share these thoughts. And I love when games can like just touch us in a way that really makes us something different about also playing something versus watching or reading something.
The immersive level and how you put yourself in actually taking the actions is a world of difference.
It is. It's like you don't realize how you get way more invested in it, right? Like, so I started watching, this is like a totally big shift, but I was watching the footage for Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2.
Yes.
Which I have feelings about.
Thoughts.
My
Thoughts
face
are
just
had.
said it all.
Yeah.
I was like,
okay.
I have feelings about. But one of the things I was thinking the other day, I filmed a reaction that's going to be up on my YouTube to the 30-minute gameplay, the extended gameplay that they did. And one of the things that I brought up when I was watching it, that I was kind of talking about and thinking about is, you know, I can look at this and I can judge it as I see it.
Sure.
But I was like, we really don't know what it's like in any game until we're playing it. Because me looking at this, I can already tell is so disconnected from what the experience is going to be like. And I might play this experience and it might not connect with me, but I might play this experience and it might really connect with me. Like I could see it going kind of either way.
Yes.
Well, especially with anything that's scary for me.
Yeah. Well, and it puts you, scary and horror in general is a very different touch point, both sound, visual experience that you go through. And that is a vulnerable experience for us to go through. But it's also hard just for anything, whether it's a video game or a book or movie, or even a life experience outside of any of those mediums, right? Like I'm going to go on an actual hike, right? There's an expectation of what we think we're going to get out of it, or if we're going to like it, or if we don't like it. And if we allow our judgment to kind of come into that can hurt this experience that we have. Like I didn't think I would like see a Solitude, but that game got me. Okay. I mean, I'll be honest, I haven't even had the chance to finish it because it was hard. It was hard
I
to go
haven't played
through.
it yet. What are you doing in Sea of Solitude?
So you're finding your brother essentially, but it's going through a lot of moments of anxiety and depression and this kind of self-talk that goes through that, and how we can
Oh.
be unkind to ourselves or what we hear from others or how we're not always there for others as well. And so you're in this
Oh.
little boat and you see this monster that's kind of like in the shadows coming after. It's just it was hard.
That sounds so scary and
Yes.
so intense
Yes.
emotionally.
Yes. And when I normally think of horror movies, I'm like, I need like it's the visceral gore and whatnot that get at me, or video games. And this one,
Mm.
it was very subtle, and like the art style is still rather cute and it's not overly detailed. So I thought like,
Oh.
oh, I'll be fine. It's safe. But it's one of those situations again, like when you get into it, it's a different experience of what you expected, but you have to be willing. And that's the key thing of anything, whether it is super immersive like a video game or even just a TV show, right? That you're watching from your couch and you can't control anything that the characters say. It's your choice of how much you want to open yourself up to these stories.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of shows and a lot of media actually that I've consumed that I need to take breaks from, because I
Yeah.
can't. I just can't. I'm like, this is a lot.
Yeah.
This is a lot. I mean, I come back. It's really brutal though. This is a massive trigger warning for people, friends, because this
Yeah.
is like a film that deals with abuse and kids, and it's really,
hard.
but it's also really beautiful. It's really messed up. It's called Hope, and it's
What a deceptive title.
that's the little girl's name that's in it, and something terrible happens to her, and it messes up with the way that she sees her dad after, because he's a man, and it's so sad. Oh my gosh. And he has to dress up as this character just to be near her because she can't like look at him, even though her dad doesn't do anything wrong. So it's not him, it's just what happened to her. And it's so sad. And I had to take like 2 breaks from watching that movie. Like I had to pause it and then like take a few days. And then I was like, all right, I do want to finish this movie because it's really good.
Yeah.
But it's just a really hard watch. So, but I think that's the stuff that's the most, in a way, important. Stuff that's hard for us to watch is sometimes the stuff that we need to see through because it's touching a part of us that's so vulnerable.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It's difficult. It's something that we don't open up with others, and it can be also very difficult for us to explore on our own.
Yeah. Also, I really got to check out this Sea of Salt. You like sold me on it. I was like, that sounds really good.
It was
that sounds really good.
It was good. I still haven't finished it. I got to get back into it
in your own time.
Yeah,
in
my own time. In my own time.
I mean, I was actually thinking of, it reminds me a little bit of, although this game is glitchy as all heck, I would not recommend it to people. But if you played Blair Witch has elements of that. It's like psychological. Any horror game that's like psychological elements in it, I'm like, oh, I hate this.
Yeah.
And then it's really psychological because it's glitchy as all heck, so you can barely do anything.
A lot like the movie.
A lot like the movie.
Why?
Yeah, like, what's happening?
It's so erratic. Okay.
But it's like there's stuff where you have hallucinations and then you're like not sure what's reality. And you have have you played Blair Witch?
No. I don't do a lot of scary.
I don't even know. I get so scared when I play horror games, but I love being scared. So I play these anyways and just terrify myself.
Yes.
You have a dog with you and he's like your buddy. I think his name's Bullet. And he is the sweetest. Like, I'm like, if anything bad happens to this dog, I am going to find out who made this game, and I'm going to write them a very strongly worded letter.
Yes.
I'm going to be like, how dare you?
The dog is fine, right? This is important to me.
I haven't played far enough.
Okay.
I've heard there's a time where you maybe get separated from the dog, and I was like, I don't think I can do that. Like I feel like if that happens to me in the game, I won't be able to finish it. Yeah. Because I can't.
Fair.
But because this dog is also the thing that like kind of grounds you, it's like anytime your dog is gone.
Yeah.
I was like, where's Bullet? Like, where did he go?
My emotional support animal isn't here.
And it doesn't help that your character is also having a panic attack. So your character's having a panic attack, and then you're playing, and I'm like, I'm having a panic attack with you.
Yep.
But there's so powerful in the sense that, like, I wish that game wasn't as glitchy as it was, because honestly, it was very well crafted in terms of the elements that I felt with the game and how horrified I was. But monsters like running into trees and getting stuck, and things freeze, and then you can't use anything. You're like trying to just move around or get into your inventory or like turn on your flashlight, and you're like, nothing works. It's tragic.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't move forward with that. Like, that's another layer of stress that wasn't meant to be in the game.
At first, I was wondering, because I know sometimes there are horror games that will do that will glitch on you just to mess with you.
Yeah.
And I was like, maybe this is part of it. And then I looked it up, and it was like, no, that's not part of it. It's just unplayable. And I was like, oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, that's a bummer. That's a bummer.
Yeah. So I was never able to finish that one. Not because I couldn't emotionally.
Yes.
However, there may have come a time, but because I literally couldn't, because it wouldn't work anymore.
Yeah, you did what you could, and that's fair, right? If they ever come up with an update that is like, hey, now it's glitch free, right? Maybe we'll come back and revisit it then.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and take our 5-minute break here. This seems like a good stopping point. Bio break, get some water, stretch a little bit, good friends. Remember, that my nick just popped. All right, so this will be a good reminder for all of us to do that. Family IT Dude recommends Talos Principle 2 for a positive message for humanity, great character interactions and conversations. So if anybody else has good games that you recommend, feel free to throw those in chat as well as we take our 5-minute break. And friends, we'll be back soon. Okay, friends, we are back here on our second half of Pink Pixels with the amazing Vamp X13, aka Amanda, joining us. And we have been doing a deep dive of how the nerdum, the stories, the games, all of it has impacted us. And I think we all, especially in this space, as we're here live on Twitch right now recording this, we know how important games are to our lives. We know how important these stories, board games, video games, TTRPGs, all of it impacts us. But on your take, what makes a good story that we want to take in, that we allow to impact us?
So I think that's a story that feels like it comes from like a really sincere place that connects with us on an emotional level. I would say that like a good story for me is something that speaks to either me as an individual or to like me as like a human being. So something either that's about like the human condition, the world, and like sort of our part in it, or something about like how something near me works that I'm like, I see. Usually it's something where I learn something. So if it's a story where I learn something new, either about myself or the world, I'm like, ooh, that's cool. That's really good. And I think the thing is there's stories, like you can have a story that has lots of elements in it that on paper sounds good.
Right.
But if it doesn't connect with people, it's not really worth anything. And I think we can also tell when there are stories that feel like fabricated, or that feel like they're more shallow, like they're just not, it's like, and then these two people get together because we need a happy ending, so they end up together, and you're like, okay,
it feels lazy.
Like, yeah, you're like, I mean, all right, that's nice, but like, why? And like, what was the point of any of this? So it has to have meaning in some way. I think back to one of my favorite comic book stories recently is an X-Men based comic that was called Hellions.
Oh, okay.
It is basically about this team of misfit mutants who right now X-Men have been having they have their new island called Krakoa. They have a whole nation that they built. And these are basically the mutants that don't really have a place. So they're like the outcasts, the troublemakers, the ones that no team, no group really they belong on.
Yeah.
They're problematic at best.
Sure.
And they're like destructive at worst, you know? So they kind of lump them all together, and then they give them to Mr. Sinister and say, Mr. Sinister's like, I think I should take this team of people that are very emotionally messed up, and you should let me lead them. I don't know why they were like, yeah, that's a great idea, but they say that's a great idea.
Yeah.
And so we get the Hellions. They're kind of like a Suicide Squad of X-Men.
Okay. Yeah, Suicide Squad, or a bunch of Deadpools all together. Like, okay, let's
we'll just send these people on the stuff that no one else wants to do, you know? Because they're and then they do it under the guise of like saying like, we're doing this to rehabilitate you.
Wow.
Like, we're gonna help you
by selfish reasons,
helping you figure out how to like teamwork, but also could you go like kill this person for us, because like no one else wants to do it. So like,
we're gonna capitalize on your instability and like make it work for us.
Go kill this person no one else wants to kill. Go.
Yay. We're not gonna help you feel better or get better. We're just gonna let you
so in one way I think it kind of speaks to like when you feel like a broken person and like no one else gets it.
Yeah.
Which oftentimes I think when we as people feel broken in some way, we think no one gets it. That's part of the reason that we feel broken, you know?
Yes.
Because we feel like we don't really connect or fit with anything. So all of these characters feel that way. And through their team, they actually do become a team, even though initially they're all very resistant. They find camaraderie in each other. They find this common ground, and they actually do, surprisingly, start to get better and start to find a place together. And it ends on a very sad note, because the team ultimately, one of them kind of goes haywire.
Yeah.
and everyone stands by them and is basically like, look, like we got put in a really tough situation. Like we kind of should have never really been in this space. Like this is really messed up, and kind of calls out the nation. And then the person that went haywire gets put away in basically their X-Men prison, which is they trap you in an island where you can't move. You're just like in the ground, like held in a stasis until they decide to let you out, which could be forever, your whole life.
Jeez.
So it's pretty harsh. It's pretty harsh.
This is very harsh. Seems really unfair. Okay. Very extreme.
These are also here. Some of these people, a lot of these people are heroes that are doing this. So let's just also whack. So they put them in the ground, and the rest of the team disbands, and everyone kind of just at the end, only really two of them find a place because they kind of have each other, so they kind of end up together, which is really cute.
Yeah.
But everyone else, just now that they don't have the team, they have nothing, so they just end up miserable.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure I would like that ending and hate that ending at the same time. Like
that's how I felt about it. I was very sad. It was very bittersweet because it's kind of the ending that you would imagine if this team disintegrates with where they were. Like they all had each other and that was their thing. Right. And they were like, this is our thing now. Oh my gosh, we have a thing. And then the thing just falls apart underneath them. And for some of them, they can take it because they've I think recovered enough. But for others, they just weren't ready yet. And so all of the work that they've done where they've healed has been taken away from them. And they go back to just being these people that don't have a space. And something about that idea of being that, one, that broken, I think, but two, the realness of the fact that it wasn't that when the team ended, everyone was fine now because they found a place. And so it doesn't matter that the team ended because it honored the truth of what the team meant to them. And so I think in a story, sometimes we have a tendency to set up stakes and then we don't deliver on those.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that undermines the story. And I love when stories commit to the stakes, when they say, this is like the end of the world.
Yeah.
And then they're like, but no, really, it's the end of the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially in superhero comics, it's hard to commit to that. So if you can sell that to people,
that's
you're
hard.
like, well, wasn't it the end of the world last week?
Yeah. And here we are again. How many legitimate scares are there? But even when you're talking about this, especially when you talk about people, I think there's a really big open space of us framing what we think the end of the world is, especially in terms of relatability. Like when you were honing in on those core concepts of describing the Hellions, I said that right?
You got it.
Okay, good. I was like, I wrote it down and I'm like, I think I wrote it down right, but I'm not sure. I wanted to double check. But it was about universal experiences, right? Of like feeling disconnected, unbelonging, and then belonging to something, and then losing it, and then breaking or feeling broken. To some degree, a lot of us can feel related to that, or to those actions, or to how we, like even when you said like with Ken, right, and Barbie and Ken, a feeling like sometimes we lash out, or wherever we see ourselves in these pieces. We're not exactly like, I'm not a mutant. We don't have those powers. I've not been hired or told that I have to go murder someone. I've never lived in Barbie land. Yeah. These aren't things, but they're relatable, universal experiences that we get to tap into. And when we say like end of the world, well, for us as humans, there's a lot of things that feel like end of the world, even though it's not actually like the real end of the world either, right? Like losing your team, that feels like an end of the world sort of scenario that does matter.
Because it's something that's, I think that's the thing, like it's really cool when you have big stories, but you can scale it so that it's still massive, but on some level it's small because it allows us. It's also like have you watched Spy Family?
I haven't. It's on my list. I know it's I know it's so good. Yes.
But Spy Family is one of those shows, because it's so big, because it's this spy drama and it's so ridiculous. It's like big threats.
Yeah.
But really, what allows us to connect to all of this is the grounded, like everyday life of these people, of this family.
Yeah.
That is going through it together. And so even though it's stuff that's like on another level, you connect with it on a really human level.
Yes.
And that's like really smart. Like when people do stories like that, I'm like,
Yes.
that's so, because you're connecting with me now on like multiple levels. So this story has a lot of layers.
Mm-hmm.
I love when stories have layers, and I love when they have characters that I can get attached to.
Yes.
I don't know. What do you think it is that makes us like attached to specific characters?
Well,
is it seeing ourselves?
It's sometimes seeing ourselves. I think it's also when we get to see the humanness of it, right? Like, I'll be honest, sometimes there's reasons I can't connect with Superman because he doesn't, well, I mean, he isn't human, but, right, like, but he doesn't fail in the same way the rest of us often do. Now, I haven't read the comics, so maybe there's the more introduction of that. Like, he's too perfect. And so
this is how I felt about Wonder Woman initially.
Yes.
This is how I felt about Wonder Woman. I didn't like her. I actually was like, I actively kind of dislike Wonder Woman.
Fair.
And then I read more of her stories and I was like, man, why is Wonder Woman the best?
Yeah.
Though, like, I didn't want to like her because I thought she was so perfect. But then I got to know her and I was like, man, she isn't perfect. She's just a woman doing her best.
Yeah. Trying to understand, do what she thinks is right. And sometimes when we do that, we do the wrong thing because we follow whatever intuition or emotions or information or whatever variables anyone gives us, and it happens. Yes.
Yeah. So like, but it is true. That's why it's really important when you have a big character, like Superman, to try to write like find out like where's really the humanity, where's the flaws in a character. That's definitely something I love in a character. This is why I love villains. I love characters that are so flawed, that fail and struggle and like, you know, lose. I love it. I'm like, oh, that sucks.
Yes.
I love you though. I'm cheering for you even though I know you're the bad guy, because I'm like, I just feel bad that, you know, this is your struggle, and like, yeah, you're not perfect, and like, yeah, maybe you want to rule the world, but like sometimes you feel like they're justified. You're like, well, yeah, but they want to rule the world because like they got really messed with though, so like, where's their justice? It's kind of messed up that we're being so mean to them. No wonder they want to rule the world. You guys are always trying to come in here, ruin their plans.
Yes. Where you can sympathize just a little, like you see the initial roots of, I see where you were wronged, but you just kept down that path when you should have turned back, you know? Like even Sinestro, what was his character? Sinestro from Incredibles?
Sinestro.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Like, okay, Mr. Incredible was a bit of a jerk to him.
Yeah. Is it Sinestro or what's his name? Something Mind? I'm thinking of a different guy.
Because he has the black and white suit. I thought he had the big S on his outfit. Now, this is going to drive me nuts.
Villain. I'm going to look it
Syndrome.
up. Let's see. Syndrome. There we go. I was about to say, Sinestro is like Yellow Lantern, Green Lantern's nemesis.
Yeah.
Sinestro. Yeah. 100% though. He is very justified.
Yes.
Like,
I
was like, okay, he's a jerk, but like, you know, he is this way. We're all a product of everything that happens around us, right? So you do get to make a choice. I always think like villains are just people that have a different approach. Like they basically lived a hero life, but they decided to take a different approach to it. Yeah. Because all the things that make heroes are basically the same things that make villains. Something dramatic happened in their life. You know, they probably weren't loved enough in some way. They definitely didn't get enough hugs, but and they had to go through massive adversity. Yes. And rather than say, you know what, like I'm going to like rise up and like make sure that like no one else. I mean, some of them even do. Some of them say, I want to make sure no one goes through this. Yes. That's why I want to try to control the world. Yeah. Because I'm going to be the person to make it better.
I mean,
so like
Thanos in his own way, I mean, at least in the Marvel movies, right? Like this is going to be better for everyone. Better to have half the population suffer than for all of it, right? That was the mentality.
Yep. And for some people, although like obviously it was heartbreaking, we actually see some of that in the MCU after, right? Like you see both sides of it. You see the people that are heartbroken by it, but you also see the people like in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I feel like they kind of talk about that a little bit, or Captain America and Winter Soldier, where they kind of focus on, you know, this idea of, but there are people that actually liked it because it did solve some problems for us. Like we did have problems. Yeah. And now that everyone's back, it's like, it's actually messed with everything. Like,
with schooling, friends, housing. And now it's like, how do we figure all this out? When we know there's that challenge of like, And that's, those conversations are sometimes not fun and very difficult to carefully tell those stories. But it feels realistic
Yes.
because so much in life there isn't like, that person's clearly a bad guy. You know, like we don't have like our
Person sucks.
clear villains. Um,
Yeah.
depending on what kind of narratives we tell.
And I would say the other thing is like in a game, it's really cool because if you have like a narrative where you really feel like you're like a core part of it in some way, you're like really invested in it, that is what like really I think gets me with like video game stories or even like tabletop stories, you know, where we get because you're part of the story now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting when you're part of a story where you really feel like I'm a big RPG player, obviously. So I love stories that really feel like my decisions like really matter and impact the world.
Yes.
And where I feel like there's stuff that's happening around me that is like super immersive and characters that I play with for hours that I love, that then like usually something terrible happens to those people. And that's when I'm like, God, this story's so good.
Yes. When there's no good choice. I remember playing Mass Effect the first time and going, that's not what I wanted. That's not, but that happens so much in real life where you do a thing and then you see the consequence. You're like, I didn't want that. I can't.
Yeah. Or just things where you know it's a hard choice. Like, I mean, a lot of the Telltale games I love for the reasons of there's never any good choices. Like you're really just trying to make the best option you can. And usually every choice you make is wrong and you're constantly questioning if you did the right thing.
Yes.
At the end of the first Dragon Age game of Origins is like, I've played through that game so many times just because I was like, okay, but what if I did something different?
Yes.
How do I fix things?
Yeah.
It's like there is no fixing things. You will change stuff, but your choices matter.
Yeah.
But there's only so much you can do.
Because you can change
and you're like,
a few things, but there's so many other people and their motivations and the NPCs that keep some of those narratives the way they are, right? Like, or how like the Templars are treated, or, you know, like how much magic is appreciated and welcomed. Like you can't control
and it's like
other
every
individuals.
side has like a pro and a con. So it's like if you choose left, it's like, well, that's got pros and cons. If you choose right, well, that's got pros and cons. So you're gonna get to see the good with the bad.
Yeah. And it's interesting to talk out loud. Like then you have to think like let's Mass Effect. I think there is one where you have to choose like, do you save these people or do you save these people? And it is not a comfortable conversation, as we have to now argue through our mind, how are we valuing whose lives are more important? Because in our real life, I want to choose everyone. But now I have to actually come down to, I have to make a decision.
I can only have one, unfortunately.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, I think that is like one of the most brutal things to do in a game, is especially when you make people care about everything. When you have a world that's so rich in a video game, where everything you can kind of understand and be like, oh, like I kind of like this for this reason, but I like this faction for this reason. And then they say, okay, well now you have to pick.
Yeah.
And you go, oh,
yeah.
Can I do both? And they're like, no, you have to pick one.
Yeah.
Because you can only right now it's like split moment decision. Only save one of these people, or where you have to pick an ending to something and you know it's going to be bad for one character that you love, but you're doing it because you're like, oh, but it'll be good for this other character.
Yes.
I don't want this. I love like you said, I love when you have those moments and you think, well, this sounds like if I help. Have you ever done this where you say, well, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm looking at the potential outcome in my mind.
Yes.
And I think if I save these people, I think these people might be better off. And sure, some of them will die, but they'll probably be fine. And then they're just like entirely annihilated. And you're like, no, I did this because I thought you'd survive. I didn't expect.
The unintended consequences. And that's feels so real too, because it reminds us, even in video games where sometimes we feel very overpowered. Like when I play Pokemon, of course I'm gonna level up my Sandshrew ridiculously. Like I'll stay in Lavender like way longer. I won't move past a certain point until I can beat everything with just Sandshrew. Oh
my god,
this is how I play.
I love this. So is Sandshrew your favorite Pokemon?
Yes, he's just too. I never evolve him either. He's just Sandshrew, kind of like how Pikachu never evolves. I probably there's something probably behind that, but but in games where we have the opportunity sometimes to be all powerful, to say I
Yeah.
want to play it this way, there's that, and then other games will give us this challenge of like you don't have that power, and it's such a kick in the nuts,
It is.
metaphorical nuts for me, but you know, like, oh
Yeah. It's also like the idea of immersion, I
yeah,
think is important in almost any story that you're telling. Like whether you're in a movie theater or whether you're reading a book or whether you're, you know, reading a comic or whatever you're doing, if you're
yeah,
playing a game.
yeah,
The feeling when you completely tune out to the world around you
mm-hmm.
and you're like, this is my life now and I can't like there are times when I've not even just stories, like I've been to like restaurants and stores and
Mm-hmm.
places that are so immersive that when I leave I feel like, oh yeah, I'm like in my body in this world. We have a we have a bar here called Off World, which is like a space themed bar.
That sounds
So
amazing.
yeah, it's like you're up in space and they have all these giant screens and they put different worlds on them. So it's like you're flying around through space in this bar is the idea. And I always forget that I'm like in this, like that I'm in Toronto. And I like, then I walk out onto the street and I'm like, oh yeah. I'm like, how'd I get here? Which way am I supposed to go? Like, I'm so disoriented because it's so immersive.
Yeah.
And I think great stories do that to us. They make us like, you put down the book and you're just like, whoa, back to reality.
Yes. Yes. Like here
Yeah.
we are. And that's why we crave places where they create it, like Disney World, Universal, right? Where they
Yeah.
will create the wizarding world for you. Welcome to the
You can
Star
go
Wars
in it.
Cantina. You know, like, yeah,
Yes.
you can walk in, you
Yes.
can say your favorite lines. You don't have to leave those worlds.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you just get to, and I mean, maybe part of that too for story is this sense of escapism, but I think it's also in a way, if you're immersed in something, I think there's a form of escapism for sure, but I also think part of why we're actually immersed in things is because there is so much that we connect with in a world. So in a weird way, we feel like we're escaping, but I feel like we're just immersing ourselves more in a different perspective of reality.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Dang. Dang.
It's that's what people want to tell you though, you know? The people we all want to say we're escaping.
Yeah.
But I'm like, are we really? Or are we just like, because I just mean when I saw Oppenheimer, that's a movie that is like humanity, like under a microscope in a lot of ways. But it felt like I was in a whole other world when I was in that movie. And then when I walked out of the theater, I was like, whoa, back to reality. And then I was like, wait, or was I just in reality? Like I was just in it. It's just a different lens. I took a lens off and I put back on just my own pure lens to see the world. Now changed. I think that's the other thing. Maybe that's what it is. But when we leave something that's immersive, it changes. That's why we walk out and we're like, whoa.
It's shocking. It's shocking.
Yeah.
But I like that you're mentioning like the lenses, because it goes back to what we were talking about earlier of how art, media, video games, right? All comics, all of this gives us a chance to perhaps see our world, what we think sometimes better or more realistically, but it gives us in a different light. Oppenheimer is part of our history, right? The stories that were told,
It's
the
a
actions that were
biopic,
taken. Yes. Drama included. But right, that drama is there added because that's supposed to add in the human experience that wasn't always documented. So it's valuable to kind of put it in for us to say, yeah, we see these actions today. What helps inform the history that makes us comfortable with some of these actions that we see today?
Yeah. And trying to, I mean, that's where the drama also plays into it, right?
Yeah.
Because the drama is us trying to sort of connect the dots of how we can understand these perspectives that people have.
Yes.
And understanding those, we kind of have to understand like the people behind them and their stories and what might have been going on for them, like emotionally. And so we play up the emotions, we heighten that element of it. and probably color some things to add in our own perspective on what could have happened there, because there's so many things with biopics where it's like no one, like these people weren't in the room, like we're just going on, like I don't know, this guy said this happened, and it's like, did it really happen?
Did he have
it's
this
like,
facial expression with it when he said it?
Did he say it exactly like this for the exact words? No. And even then, in some cases it's like, well, you have this person's perspective of it, and I'm like, okay, well, if we don't have everyone else's, then we don't really know what's true. And even if you do, you're only still going to have a semblance of a story, because we all are coming from our own experience with it. So what is truth? Truth is a figment of our imaginations in some ways. But that is to say that it's allowing us to tap into it, because we're trying to connect with the viewers through that story. I think it also tends to be about the importance, especially in biopics, but also in all media, of like, what's the through line, right? I think that makes a great story when you have a strong, either like a theme, but ideally like something that connects every piece. It's like a central, I don't know what to call that. It's like the heart of a story.
Yes. What's the core?
What is connecting everything? What's the core?
Yeah. Because
so you have to have something that ties to everything.
Yeah. And there is a message, or else if you don't have that core, that heart, then your story is all over the place.
Yeah. I mean, are there any stories that we can think of though, like games, anything that like you feel like was great but didn't have a message?
I feel like there's some that bore me when the message, right? Like when I think of something like, oh, it was like A to B, when I really want A, B, C, D, E, F, G, like I want more to it, or where they are missing those layers. But at the same time, I think that's not necessarily the fault of that story, because not all stories are meant for every person.
Right. So you feel like that was actually still a good story, but it just didn't connect with you in the same way.
Yeah. There's certain stories, or even like maybe it's not me, or maybe it's the right story for me in 20 years from now. Like there have been books I've read, I'm like, I don't like this. And then, I go through an event, and then later I'm like, I really like this all of a sudden. You get a different ability in different experiences to interpret and see it. Or even Scrib had mentioned earlier, like not wanting all of like the moral decisions, because sometimes, you don't need that story right now. Having ones that are straightforward can be what you need at that moment.
Yes, that is very true. And I mean, I think like, I was just thinking, this is making me think of Top Gun Maverick. And how much I love that. I thought that movie was amazing.
Yeah.
But I was just trying to think now, I'm like, does that movie have like a strong through line? And I'm like, I think it does, because it does connect with us on a level of like, this is like a hero story in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And it ties back to this idea of not really having anything to connect to, but your like duty, or this almost like a loss of identity, and reducing your identity to like what your job is, which I feel like kind of happens with Maverick in that story.
Yeah.
But it's so important to you. That's like all you have.
Yes. Yeah.
And so you watch someone sort of have this like final hurrah moment of like, this is the moment that I get to pass on the one thing I have, because I have nothing else. Like everything else in my life has been gone.
Yeah.
Kind of because of this one thing I committed to.
Yeah.
But hey, I'm going for it anyways, because the military.
Yeah.
And getting to join someone on that journey of like, yeah, but we root for you because that's how dedicated you are. Like it's really the story of a dedication to the things that we're passionate about, and why we do things. We do things because we love them. Yeah. It's a story of like love of your profession, love of your allies and your team.
Yeah. I'm wondering if some of those apply to the Mission Impossible stories, because I got kind of bored with after the first few.
Yeah, Mission Impossible, I would say Mission Impossible I feel like is I love Mission Impossible.
Good. Then sell me on this.
Yeah, I'll try to sell.
Remind me, because it's also been a while. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, like, what does Mission Impossible have? So it's a story about a guy who is finding his place as well. Is this all Tom Cruise movies?
Yes.
Are they all about a guy finding his place?
In every single movie. He's still, but you know what? That's fair. So I feel I'm still finding my place. So you know what? We can go through this story multiple times.
We can.
Yeah.
I feel like I never, even when I feel like I find my place, I'm like, wait a minute, is this my place? I need to question. Let me find my place again.
Well, because we're constantly growing, so why not?
And I mean, he does do a lot of stories that are kind of this like hero or like in some ways a lot of underdog stories. Yeah, that's interesting. This is opening up my mind to just what I'm like, Tom, you're just doing the same story again, aren't you?
But if it's a good one, and if we like it, why not? You know, that's not a bad thing. It just, again, it's what you need and what you want. Win.
Yeah, it's really about, I think, Ethan Hunt, I think is the name of Tom Cruise's character, Mission Impossible, and he is a criminal that turns into basically like kind of a master spy, gets recruited to this organization, goes in with them, gets a team. And then it's really about like him and his team pulling off these impossible missions.
Yes.
Which I mean, also Mission Impossible, I believe, was based on a show. So there's also a show that I don't know what the core of that is. But I would say in Tom Cruise's version with the movies, it's really about like him and his team coming together to do these ridiculous things.
Yeah.
All because they're a strong unit. So in a way, it's kind of like a family movie and in finding yourself like through your family and your work.
And trusting your team, I assume. There's got to be a lot of trust. Yeah.
And weirdly, I would say maybe Tom Cruise also does those movies because that's what he connects with as someone who is very much like, I don't think Tom Cruise could live if he wasn't doing movies. Like he just seems like the type of person that he always has to be creating something.
Loves his work.
Because loves his work. And I think for him, maybe that's why a lot of his films are about like finding yourself through a profession, because for him, his profession is very much who he is. You know? He's also a very private person, doesn't like people to know a lot about him. And I think that's because to him, and that's all he really does. Like, that's all I really know, other than he's a Scientologist.
Yeah.
That's all I know.
Yeah.
He's a Scientologist. I know he loves to bake cookies, apparently, and loves to make movies.
Yeah. That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I like that insight, like what it reveals also about us, because I mean, whether we're not acting in movies, I mean, you perform, but you know, but when we partake in them, we watch it again and again, we play the game again and again, or we look for more in that genre. It's because we see something in there that reflects of us.
Is there a game that you've played that you play like multiple times? What do you think it says about you?
Oh gosh. Oh no, I don't like that question. No.
I also like how I'm the guest, but I'm just like, I want to know this. Now that I'm finding things, I'm like, we need to talk about this.
Let's
crazy.
I like that. I'm gonna steal that question. I'm gonna ask you that.
Oh, okay.
This is fair. This is your highlight, your spotlight. Because it is.
Well, we can share. We share the spotlight. I mean, I feel like I'm sure everyone also wants to know more about you as well, as someone that's here constantly. Well, it's always fun to find out.
You go first, and then I'll go.
Okay.
Because it's hard.
What is a game that it is?
Yeah. Or I think we can broaden it out. It could be a comic or movie, whatever we consume a lot. Yeah.
I would say for me, something that I've come back to constantly and something that I'm really excited about is Fable.
Ooh.
I come back to that a lot. Fable, I would say 1 and 3.
Yeah. Okay.
But also, I've played so many times Dragon Age 2.
Yeah. Yes. Great choice. Yes. Understand. Keep going.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm going to keep it to things that are just stories, because I also really love Fall Guys, but I don't know what that says about me. That I like to be a jelly bean,
No, it's just that again, we're complex humans. We can have serious sides and silly sides, and all of them are equally important, right? Sometimes we like to be silly and bump our friends off the road or the sidewalk. Maybe not the road. That sounds dangerous.
I think it sounds dangerous. Well, fall into the sky, but you know, you just fall back down, so it's fine.
Yeah.
But I think why I like Fall Guys is honestly like a lot of the physics in that game. It's just so ridiculous.
Yeah.
something about that. I think for Fable, let's see, like, what's Fable really about? So in Fable, we're a hero trying to save our sister in the first game.
Yes.
And in the third game, we're kind of trying to find like the path for like a whole world.
Yeah. That's a lot.
That's a lot. In Dragon Age 2, we're in a city trying to like uncover what's really going on. Like, aren't we kind of solving what's happening in Dragon Age 2? We're trying to like solve like a mystery.
There's a mystery, and there's a particular magic, and because I remember we go into it. We have to go into it, and it kind of makes us address our fears. I don't. That was one encounter that
is one
remember
aspect of it.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, I think, what do those say about me? Obviously, I love playing heroes.
Yes.
That's clear. And I think I come back to those games because it has to do a lot with the worlds for me.
Yeah.
I think I like a world that seems very idyllic, but that has darkness underneath, and this uncovering of those layers. I think in Fable, there's a lot of elements of that, of like this idea of, you know, we think one thing and then it kind of gets shifted on us in a lot of the elements of the story. Obviously, there's a lot of story there. And same with Dragon Age.
Right.
But I think in Dragon Age 2, that's a lot of what I enjoy is this revelation that one goes through, where you kind of realize the world isn't quite how you see it.
Oh,
so
that's harsh.
What does that say about me?
It seems a little bleak, which doesn't. You don't seem like a bleak individual, but I think what it does, if I may interpret, if that's okay,
yes,
and please correct, as I think that you want to understand the world around you. I think you're aware that there are lenses. And so you want to take in an experience so that way you can know and understand better.
I would agree with that. I like that. I think it has to do with me wanting to peel back the layers on everything to fully see it. And I like the idea of the safety of like an ideal like little fantasy world where like things seem fun and good, but also the harsh truth of reality that's mixed in there that allows me to be like, this is like safe, but also, you know, nothing is all good, and that's the beauty of the world. Like we have lots of elements to it. I don't want the wool pulled over my eyes. That's what it is. I want to be awake.
Yes. Oh, I like that. That's exciting. Wow. You made that look fun and cool. Okay. I feel
it's really hard with longer games too, because I'm like, there's so many elements that I like about it. Like, what is it about that game? Why do I play it?
On top of people doing horoscopes, now you figure out what your favorite game tells about you, right? Like that's this is another way.
Psychoanalyze yourself with your game choices.
Yes. Oh gosh. So I was gonna say the Mass Effect series. I'm not even pick one. I'm just gonna say the whole.
Yeah, the whole series.
Yeah.
So, I also like how you keep coming back to Mass Effect and I keep coming back to Dragon Age.
Yes.
And they're like two sides of this very important gaming coin.
Yes. I mean, the same kind of story appreciation and all the variables that you have. And so they echo each. I don't know why though I don't ever pick Dragon Age. I love it still, but now I gotta think about that now.
You go over Mass Effect over Dragon Age, and I think there are a lot of people that are like that. I've never finished all the Mass Effect games, so I played a little bit of one, and then I played some of Andromeda, and that's all I've played so far.
I can't give Andromeda a fair review because I made the mistake. Well, I've played the first 3 8 times now. Yeah, so I have a problem. And then I did the first 3 and then went straight into Andromeda without knowing the trailer or anything. And then I realized all my favorite characters aren't in Andromeda. So I was emotionally upset.
I know a lot of people like Andromeda was like, what is happening with this?
Yes. I need to go back.
My partner warned me when we played it.
Yeah.
He was like, just FYI, like, this is like, here's why people don't like this game, and I'll just kind of share with you as we're going through. But of course, me, I know nothing, so I was like, "This game's great. I love this game. It's so much fun. Why don't people like it?" He was like, "Well, because we all are attached to the lore, you see." And I said, "Oh, yes, yeah."
So I want to give it another shot, but I think like you, like I want to be a hero, But I also know I cannot do anything but Paragon. So I think it's important for me to be understood and seen as a hero as well.
Right.
It's not enough
So
that
you
I
have
do
to
the
be
good
like,
things. Mm-hmm.
you have to be seen as that
Yes.
image. You want to be known as a hero, not as someone that's like this reluctant hero
Yeah.
or is like
Mm-hmm.
actually, or like, you know, do you always play good?
Yes.
Yeah.
I there are moments where I'm like, I like with like Kai Lang, one of your big nemesis, not the big one, but like one of them, and you're like, I'm gonna kill you, you know, like sort of thing. But even then, I don't think I even choose the most extreme options.
even that guy, you're
Yeah.
like, you know what? I'll let you. I don't wanna, but I'm gonna be nice.
Yeah.
A little nice at least.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I would say Mass Effect, from what I know of it, is that it's really big.
Yes.
And it's a lot of like flying through space. And a lot, I would say it's not to say that Dragon Age doesn't have hard choices, because it does, but I would say that Mass Effect is like a lot more harsh of a reality.
There's one DLC where a whole planet dies.
Yeah.
That's not fun.
So
yeah.
That's interesting. So do you feel that you're like, you enjoy that element of it, and you like that it's like more harsh? Do you like that it's like, why do you like space?
Well, I think there's two parts to it. I think I like the decision making because it feels like my decisions matter. And that feels important, where sometimes we just feel like, why am I doing these things? Like in our day-to-day lives, like where we feel like we're just part of a wheel. Whereas in Mass Effect, every decision I make has an impact on a big ripple effect that I can actually see. And so I feel like I'm actually making a difference. Oh, I'm telling on myself now, aren't I?
I see some things.
Like yeah.
I would say that I feel like you really want to be seen. And it's this idea of getting to travel everywhere and really feel seen no matter where you are, and be very strong and like, this is who I am. Look at me. I'm a hero. I'm really proud of it. Whereas maybe in your day-to-day, you don't feel that as much. And so through the game, or, you know, you want to feel that. And so you strive to feel that way. And that's the way that you want to live life. You want to be seen and be out there and be known for what you do, and have people like, even if it's not good, because you're not afraid to make hard choices. You're like, I just want people to know that like my choices matter.
Yes. That there's a reason and an impact that we can have. Yes. You can bill me for a therapy session later. but it's telling about it for me. Yeah, I want to feel like what I do actually matters at the end of the day, right? Or and that's any of these stories, right? When we start to hone in, why do they care? Was it because finally because maybe even the starting point for a lot of them was like, they felt like outsiders. I feel like an outsider right now. And that's a hard truth to say out loud to ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's also why people get so defensive sometimes, right? And why when people gatekeep, it becomes very personal.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to acknowledge that the reason that they need to do this is because they feel like they don't belong. Especially when you're in a world where you, like, this is supposed to be a community where you feel seen. To acknowledge that in that moment, because of whatever was said, even though someone probably didn't say that to do that to you. So it's kind of on the other, like, kind of when you feel like gatekeeping, we all need to acknowledge it's really all on ourselves.
It is. Yeah.
But it's because it's coming from a very real place of feeling like we could potentially be pushed out. So we have to like really close those gates to protect ourselves.
Yes.
And we don't want to acknowledge that, like, right now, I feel like I got to close the gate because I'm scared.
Yeah.
Like,
we may be motivated and have good reasoning, but that does make us the villain, right? Like
it does make us the villain.
Yeah.
But that's why it's important, I think, when we feel those feelings, to be like, why am I being defensive right now? Like, where is this coming from? And is there maybe a way that I could be kinder with myself and kinder with the world to really like let myself be vulnerable in this moment a bit? Like, just process the feelings and understand them better, so that when I respond to someone, I'm not getting defensive with them because I'm being triggered by something that really might not be from them.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard because we all have these experiences, and a lot of the times, especially when someone says something, like I had an incident where on YouTube there are certain words we can't say,
Right.
and so we have to say, like, you know, like I don't say any of these things. I just say, you could say SA, you know, for like
yeah.
And then I usually don't, because I just feel like it feels weird to say that. It feels like I'm minimizing it, but I still
For
can't
hiding
say
the words.
Yeah, but I still can't say certain things, so I still have to try to find a way. So I would usually say something like, this person was like severely mistreated by this other person, or, you know, this person like had like they came on to someone in a really bad way, stuff like that.
Yes.
And someone felt I was minimizing it because it was like sort of a violence against like a male character from a female character. And because of their experience, they felt that I was trying to minimize like violence against men. And I was like, no. Yeah. I just can't say certain things, and it goes both ways. So it's never gender based or anything like that. It's just these unfortunately are things we have to do because of monetization and blah 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 blah, and YouTube and rules. To which they then said, oh, I have a trigger, and this specifically hit my trigger, and I felt like I was being targeted by the way, because of their personal experience. So that was something that hit really close to them, but I was so amazed they were able to acknowledge the trigger and then basically apologize to me for accusing me of something, and then say, you know, and then I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry that happened to you. And obviously, and no, never want to make people feel like that. That's awful. But that's the thing. It's like when it's really personal, it's really hard to say, is this person or is this me? In my experience.
Yes.
Especially when you're afraid that it could be the other person.
Yes. Yes. And when we want to have understanding or connectedness, that can make it feel like we have to be doubly defensive in those spaces.
Yeah. And it's scary because if you then say to someone, like, oh, you know, like this is coming from my personal experience, and like I don't want to misconstrue anything here, that person could say to you, no, I am doing that to you right now. And then you're like, oh, great, I was vulnerable and I just got hurt. Ouch. Yeah.
The risk of engaging with humans, but it's still worth it, because when we do have those communities that get excited with us or share that understanding, it's beautiful. I mean, that's why we play games and we share it and we stream it with people, because when we share it, it doubles that experience, the emotions, the conversations, the passion, when people add to it. It's wonderful.
The stories, it's like you're telling a story, and now you're adding your story to that story. And so within that, it becomes a whole other world. I mean, that's the really cool thing about video games, I think, is that because we're playing through it as an experience, every person's, I mean, I guess every story that we watch or consume, we're going to have our own experience with. But really in games, because you're making choices and stuff, you're really having your own experience. Like we played Baldur's Gate 2. I still have to play so much more of that game. I miss it every day, but I don't play it. Every day I wake up in the morning and say, another day where I'm not going to play Baldur's Gate 2. What a waste. What a waste of my life. But I played 2 different playthroughs. One with Uptown Duck, one myself. And I was like, he was watching my playthrough, and I was also telling him about it. And he was like, wait, how did you find Gale? Like, where was he? And I was like, oh, he's at the beginning. And he was like, how did we not find him? And I was like, we didn't go that way.
Is Gale in 2 as well? I know he's in 3.
Oh, sorry. Yes, Baldur's Gate 3. Sorry, that's what
I was interested. Like, I've never played. I was like, I've never played Baldur's Gate 2. I was like, but you are talking about. I'm like, I need to play
I've never played any Baldur's Gate before 3.
No. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. Like, you get such different experiences of like, when do you get a character if you happen to wander to the one spot where his arm is sticking? You know, like, was that Gale? I can't remember.
Yeah, it is. It's where his arm's sticking out.
Yeah,
and it's like if you don't. But that's the beauty of it, right? Like. because we're playing the game and we're playing it in a different way,
Yes.
there's going to be different experiences we're going to find. I was so amazed at how different those experiences were playing the same game and already knowing so many things. Like I thought, oh, well, I know some things.
Yeah.
Like most RPGs, you know, I play it once, I play it a few times, play it like 10 times. I'm like, I know everything. But I feel like that's a game.
Yeah.
I feel like I'll never know everything in that game somehow. That's how big it is. And I mean, it's also probably because they're going to change it forever.
Yes.
They're going to always be adding and tweaking and beautiful. But that's the beauty. And then when you watch, you know, somebody's gameplay and you watch someone else's gameplay, how different those are, how different the build of a character can change your game, your strategy, so many elements of the way that you play the game.
It adds to it. I want to keep picking your brain for insights. I do want us to be aware of time because you are an amazing individual. We want to give you some time maybe back to play Baldur's Gate 3 tonight. But as we wrap up this show, because you've shared such wonderful insights into the stories that we love, how they impact us, what it tells about us, how we engage good behavior, bad behavior, what we can get out of it. I want people to be able to find you, follow you, take in more of everything that you offer, because it's been such a rich conversation. I've loved this. I've enjoyed this so thoroughly. I wish I could keep you for like the next 5 years. And then, you know, if you want to escape at that point, I'll leave that open to you. But where can people find you? Because this is fantastic for all things nerdum, because you are diverse. I didn't even get to talk about like how you are in so many different nerdums and what that's like. But this has been great. I love the deep dive. Where can people follow you?
Yes. Well, thank you so much. Also, it's been an honor to be on here with you. I have followed the Gamers for a while, found out about them through other women in the gaming community, and it's been amazing chatting with you. I've also had fun. I would stay for 5 years. If you ever want me for 5 years,
deal.
Just email me.
Yeah.
Book me in.
Gotcha.
You can find me everywhere pretty much as VampX13. Some places as Amanda Does Cosplay. You can find me on Twitch. You can find me on YouTube. I also am a host for Top 10 Nerds. You can also find me through that channel where I talk about comics. I also talk about comics on my own channel and the MCU and everything nerdy. I do too many nerdy things. It's a bit of an issue because people say you should have a niche, and I say, what's that? I don't know.
Yes.
You can find me on Coffee. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Blue Sky.
Everything. Literally everything.
Everything, really. Yeah, literally. I'm on TikTok. I don't really post a lot on TikTok, but go follow me over there. I should post more. There's people are over there and they do stuff.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And when you do post it, then we'll get the notification that you've created something and we'll see it.
Yeah. Then you can be like, oh, finally. Amanda said she never posts on here, and here she is. Once in a blue moon.
We'll throw a parade. Big celebration.
She's finally returned.
She did it. Her coming back was foretold, right? Like,
yes. My agent asked me today for my TikTok for something, and she was like, I couldn't find you. And I was like, oh, yes, I don't really post. I might be challenging to find. I'm sorry.
It's fine. Here you go. But just in case.
Here you go.
We're there to be there for you when you're ready for it.
Yeah, it's hard making short content. It's a different vibe. Yeah.
It is.
But yeah.
All right.
So that's where you can find me.
Perfect.
I'll be there. I stream Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Dang.
So every day except Tuesday.
Okay.
Come by. We do lots of things on stream. I'm a variety streamer, so I do ASMR, I do tabletop RPGs, I do board games, I do video games. Sometimes I cosplay, sometimes I don't, sometimes I color. Right now I'm playing Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, and I've been doing it exclusively dressed up as versions of Harley Quinn. And I'm wondering if I have enough versions to just do it through the entire game. I don't know if I do.
Or you have to cycle back again.
Yeah. I might have to cycle back again.
Yeah.
I might dress up like a shark one day.
Yes.
King Shark.
Yes.
We'll see. I love King Shark.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm excited. I need to go see all of these. This is amazing. Friends, if you aren't following, you need to.
What I really need is the classic boomerang look. Have you seen that look?
Oh, no. I need to look that up. I'm going to Google that now.
Yeah. Look up classic boomerang. It's my favorite look in the game.
Okay.
And in the comics. It's so good. That's a cosplay I need.
Okay.
And Boomerang's a ginger, so I feel like I could rock it.
Then yeah, easy,
Yeah.
easy step in. You're like, I'm prepared for this. This was meant to be me.
Yeah.
Well, you are a dream of a human being. Friends, if you aren't following, easy, right? Name tagged right in the title. And of course, we've got the pinned link of wonderful mod Jaws Drop has that link tree posted in there. So it makes it super easy for you to follow. And so if you're not, boo on you. All right. You're missing out. You're missing out. Good friends, it's been wonderful to have you all here. If you haven't joined the gamers community and want to meet more amazing individuals like Vamp X13, make sure you join. We have an app, and at the end of this month, we have the Gamers Awards that highlights a lot of amazing women in the gaming and nerd space. So I encourage you, even if you're not voting, just go check out that list because it's a great place to find amazing individuals in the space. All right, check it out. Check it out. We'll see you all next week. Bye, everyone.